Time for another board game review, and this time we have the game The Pillars of the Earth, based on the novel by Ken Follett. This was sent to me by Thames Kosmos, and is designed by Michael Rieneck and Stefan Stadler. England at the start of the 12th century. Prior Philip of Kingsbridge has an ambitious dream. He wants to build the largest and most beautiful cathedral in the country. To do this, he needs experienced master builders, played by you. You will work together on the monumental building, each using your own workers and competing to make the largest contribution to the cathedral's construction. You must employ and manage skilled craftsmen. Your hired workers will source the necessary building resources, stone, wood, and sand. What's missing can be bought in the builder's resource market, but for high prices. As master builders, you'll have to worry about more than just the construction of the cathedral. The king will levy special taxes on a whim. Your plans may fall apart if you run out of gold. It's a good idea to periodically beg for the king's favor. Maybe he will be in a generous mood and let you have some desperately needed metal. An audience with the archbishop might also be helpful, as it offers protection from more powerful forces that manifest in unexpected events. Sometimes fate will be kind to you, but sometimes it will hinder your progress. You may also have to appeal to influential people to support your plans. By the end, the glorious building, the Pillars of the Earth, will reach up to the heavens. Who has contributed the most to it and who has earned the most fame? The player who has used his or her gold, craftsmen, and time most efficiently will be the winner. Let me show you how to play. So the goal of the game is to score the most victory points. The player who has the most victory points, as shown on the victory point track, over here at the end of the game, is the winner. Victory points are mostly earned by using craftsmen to build up the cathedral with building resources at the end of each round. The game is played over 6 rounds. Each round represents several years in the building process. At the end of the game, the cathedral is complete. Each round is divided into 3 phases. Now, while that sounds complex and long, the game is actually played in phases 1 and 2. Phase 3 is not even really a phase. So to start a round, you take the advantage deck, and you take the top 2 cards. You then place them face up in these spaces at the King's Bridge. Then you take the craftsman cards for this round. There's always 4 for each round. And you turn over the top 2, like so, and you place them face up at the shiring. The remaining 2 craftsmen get placed beneath the board, underneath these 2 spaces. Then you draw the top 7 building resource cards, and you place them face up next to those 2 craftsman cards. And these 9 face-up cards are the supply for the first round. So in the first phase, you're selecting your building resource cards and craftsman cards. Beginning with the starting player, you take turns in clockwise order choosing a card from the supply. Once each player has chosen a card, the starting player takes another turn, and so on. Now, you may choose not to take a card on your turn by passing. If you do, you may not take any more cards from the supply for this round. The phase ends when all 9 cards have been taken, or if all players have passed. So player 1 might take the forest card, player 2 might take the gravel pit, so on and so forth. Now, any building resource cards at the end are placed to the side. Any craftsman cards that aren't collected are removed from the game. Now, if you choose to take a building resource card, you will have to place the required number of workers in the top left corner in that location. If you do, you'll get this many of the resource, in this case 2 wood. And the numbers on these can vary quite a bit. Like this quarry card, you would need to put 8 workers down in the quarry to collect 3 stone. Or for the gravel pit, you would need to put down 7 workers to collect 4 sand. If you don't have enough workers, you can't take a card. If you choose to take a craftsman, they give you certain abilities. You have to pay the amount of gold. So if this person took the tool maker, they would have to, let's say a yellow player took it, they would deduct their wealth by 2. Now, each player starts with 3 craftsmen at the beginning of the game, the way to look at these is you can convert 2 stone to 1 victory point, and you can do that 4 times per round. So the mortar mixer, 3 sand into a victory point for 3 times per round, and the woodworker, 2 wood into a victory point 4 times per round. You only ever have room for 5 craftsmen. If you ever hire more than 5, you have to discard 1 immediately. Let's look at these 2. We have the mortar mixer here. This guy can let you do victory points for cheaper sand. Only 2 for each victory point, as opposed to 3 for the default. The tool maker here, as long as you have metal in your supply, he'll give you 2 gold. Now, any workers that were not used during that sort of card selection phase are placed in the wool mill. You'll get 1 gold per worker later. So that was phase 1, where you selected your building resource cards and craftsman cards and used either workers or gold to pay for them. And now it's time for master builder assignment. In this bag, there are 3 master builders for each color. They look like this. And they're all randomly mixed up in this bag. The starting player will then draw the first master builder and place it on this black token here on this sort of half wheel. Whoever's master builder was drawn can either place this master builder or pass. Now, once per round, the starting player may return this marker back into the bag and draw a new master builder if they want to, but only once per round. So let's say instead it is, oh, blue again, too bad. Now, as you can see on the board, there are multiple locations where the master builder can be placed. Any space is marked like this with this round sort of star symbol. So I'm not going to go through what all these locations do yet, because I'm going to do that later. But if the blue player chose to place their master builder, let's say on Kingsbridge, they would have to pay 7 gold, because that's where the cost marker is now. You also have the option, like I mentioned, to pass, but then you lose your first action. If you don't want to pay for that gold, pay that much gold, I mean, you could choose to pass. But if you did, you would take your marker and you would move it down 7 gold on the wealth tracker, and the cost marker will then be moved to the 6, meaning the next master builder placed will only cost 6 gold. So you draw another builder. Here we have yellow, and now the yellow player has to decide if they want to place their worker for 6 gold or pass. So they could go, okay, I'm going to go to the Kingsbridge resource market up there. In that case, they would have to pay 6 gold. And then the marker would move down to the 5. Now, whether or not the player places it or passes, this cost marker always moves down. So for the first 7, you're going to have those different costs no matter what. Once you reach the 8th space on here, all master builders placed are free. Therefore, you no longer have the option of passing. If your master builder was drawn and you decided to pass, you instead put it here to mark that you pass with it. So let's say during this round and this round, these players had passed. Once all the master builders are drawn from the bag, then you go through and place these for free. But before we do anything, we have to draw an event card from up here. In this case, it's a pretty bad one. William Hamley demands new taxes. Each player loses 4 gold, which sucks, but that's what the Archbishop's seat is for. Any person that's on the Archbishop's seat can get protection from the event if they choose, or if they don't, 1 resource from the market. As you can see, these are numbered, like events has number 1 and Archbishop has number 2, and so we start to resolve everything in numerical order. Like I already mentioned, the Archbishop can protect you from events. Then we go to the wool mill, and each player will collect 1 gold per worker. Green will take 3, blue 2, red 2, and 1 yellow. The workers are then returned to the players' inventories. Now, you can never have more than 30 gold. If you ever get more than that, you lose the income. Then we go to Kingsbridge, and wherever your marker is, the card above it, you take that card. So blue player will get Otto Blackface joins your crew. You receive an additional worker, the black figure, which you may use each round from now on. So that just gives you an extra person to add to your worker pool. Another example of an advantage card is the Crying Madonna is brought to Kingsbridge. You just immediately get 3 victory points. Then we go over to number 5, Kingsbridge Priory. The first player here gets 2 victory points. And there's nobody here, but if they had been here, they would have gotten 1 victory point. Just simple points. Now it's time to collect those resources through 6 through 8 in the Forest, Quarry, and Gravel Pit. So back when we drafted those cards, we placed workers on the locations where we took the cards from. And this is when you get those resources. So if red player had drafted this card, they have 3 workers here, and they get 2 wood. And you do the same thing for Quarry and Gravel Pit. Very self-explanatory. So now it's time for the King's Court. In this case, everyone has to pay taxes. You roll the tax die. Oh, everyone's got to pay 3 gold. However, if you have a master builder in this area, you are exempt from taxes for that round. Also, whoever placed their master builder here first gets to take 1 medal. If you can't pay taxes, you must pay as much gold as you have. And then you lose 1 victory point for every 2 gold you can't pay, rounded down. Then we go up to number 10, the Shiring. In this case, you can take the worker you placed your pawn under. And you don't have to pay the gold cost. You just get this card for free. And here's a woodworker. 1 wood can get converted into 4 gold 2 times per round. This mason card, it's 1 stone into a victory point 2 times per round. Going up to here, Shiring Castle, yellow player gets to take 2 gray workers for the next round. At the end of the next round, these get returned back to the castle. Then we move to the Kingsbridge Resource Market. In the order of Master Builder's place here, you get to take turns buying materials from the market. Each sand is 2 gold, each wood is 3 gold, and each stone is 4 gold. So yellow player can buy as many of one resource type as he wants on their turn. So let's say he buys 3 sand for 6 gold. Then let's say red player collects 2 wood for 6 gold. Let's say green player takes 1 stone for 4 gold. You keep cycling through until everyone is satisfied. You can also sell material. In this case, you sell them for their market cost, or you can sell metal for 5 gold each. Then we move down to the Cathedral, and this is where you convert your resources into victory points. So that's what these craftsman cards are for. You take the materials you collected throughout the round, and then you can exchange them for points or gold, and you'll move your marker along the victory point track accordingly. Now, at the end of the round, you may save at most 5 building resources of your choice, but anything that's additional to that must be returned to the supplies. Then you place a cathedral piece on here. This is just a glorified round marker sort of thing, but it's fun. And that marks the end of a round. Each round, you'll slowly build up your cathedral until finally the whole thing is complete. And that'll mark when the game is done. And that's a round. You play 6 rounds of that, and whoever has the most points at the end is the winner. If there's a tie, most gold wins. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail on the events, because those can actually be kind of like fun surprises. So instead, I'll just kind of go over some of the other craftsmen you can get. As the game progresses, you can see there are different piles of craftsmen that appear throughout the game. Better and better craftsmen will appear, like the architect just gives you a point for free without having to do anything. The organ builder, you can exchange 1 wood and 1 metal for 6 victory points. The goldsmith lets you change your gold into victory points, 3 gold for 1 point. The bell maker exchanges metal, 4 walloping points for each metal. And that's basically how the game progresses, as you get more and more craftsmen that are better and better, and at the end of each round you just try to get as many points for your materials as possible. There are also a bunch of different advantage cards. I'm not going to go into those because, again, those can be kind of a fun surprise. I'll show you a couple. So, like, Brother Francis creates a tax exemption for you. Each round you do not place a master builder in the King's Court, you pay a tax of only 2 gold. That's pretty useful. And Archbishop Thomas extends his protective hand over you. In a later round, you may ignore the event card. So it's like a get out of event free card. Yeah, so a lot of different little special powers you can get, but that's pretty much it.
So I haven't read the book that this game is based off of, and if I'm being totally honest, when I heard it was about building a cathedral, I was like, that seems fine. The theme seemed a little dry to me, but this game, despite its theme, has some really solid and clever mechanics that make it stand out from other worker placement games for me. Like, I've played a lot of worker placement games. Sometimes they can get a little samey, but there are some really smart decisions here. First off, it starts out with that very satisfying mechanic of drafting cards with the resources and craftsmen. And what I thought was really neat was the whole pulling the builders out of the bag randomly. That's such an interesting mechanic. It gives you this great tough decision of, okay, my guy is pulled first. Do I want to spend those whopping 7 gold just to get exactly where I want to go on here? Or should I risk it and wait and get it for free? Money is always super tight in this game. And at the risk of losing points, because, you know, there's that tax rolling thing, you always want to be careful with your money management, especially with the events. Sometimes the events really punch you in the dick. The game plays very elegantly and simply. It's very clear from the beginning what all those action spaces do, and there's nothing super fiddly with the rules. There are so many good spaces on the board that you often get that nice feeling of aha when you get the benefit of one space, but you'll also be like, oh, but I wish, but those spaces are so good too. It's that great feeling of you got a good space, but you're always going to envy your opponent's spaces as well. The only potential issue I foresee is maybe lack of variability, because the only thing you randomize in this game is at the beginning you take out 4 events from the deck and 4 advantage cards, and that's it. Otherwise, you'll see the same cards over and over again. And especially if you are not familiar with the book or the theme, it can feel a little dry. But that's just my personal opinion. I still think this is a very, very good game. If you're a fan of the book,
I think you should definitely check it out because it's very solid and it's not hard to learn. And if you like worker placement games, that whole bag drawing mechanic on top of the card drafting adds a lot to this and makes it more than just your typical worker placement game for me. It's got a tight design, and you're always trying to maximize efficiency in your production. And if you manage to do it without, going bankrupt, it's super satisfying. So overall, I recommend it. It's very good.